He's also on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman Brooks, great to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Did President Biden's wrists get tired? I mean, he signed a lot of executive orders today. We're trying to figure out what is really behind the delay here. It doesn't seem like he was interested in unity, but maybe he is now. Maybe he realizes that there is bigger priorities out there like the COVID relief bill to work on.
Well, clearly the president, along with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, want all of America to unify behind socialist dictatorial policies. And quite frankly, I don't think we're ever going to do that. There's still a majority of citizens in the United States of America who love our country, who understand that we're the greatest nation in world history because of foundational principles embodied in freedom that enabled us and empowered us to become the greatest nation in world history. So we're not going to be unifying behind, by way of example, this idea of amnesty for illegal aliens. We need to learn from what happened in 1986 when we gave amnesty to 2 to 3 million illegal aliens. What did that do to us? That gave us a 15 million or so illegal alien problem today. If we give amnesty this go around to those illegal aliens, we're going to have more job losses, we're going to have more suppressed wages for struggling American families, and long term, you're probably going to see a 30 or 40 million illegal alien problem, and that's not even counting the $9,000 per year average cost to American taxpayers for each illegal alien in the United States of America. So there are a lot of things that we could do, but these kinds of things that you're seeing in these executive orders, whether it be an undercutting of Title IX, whether it be the killing of the Keystone XL pipeline that produces a lot of jobs and also makes us less reliant on Middle Eastern oil, these are just bad for our country, and so we're going to fight them.
Now, the indication is that Bernie Sanders is running wild with this COVID relief bill. There was some talk, I think, yesterday about a smaller version, but the White House says we're not going to do that. And Nancy Pelosi says the House is going to move forward with the COVID relief bill next week, with or without support from Republicans. You know, this could be $2 trillion when it's all said and done here, but they don't seem to want to get any, input from Republicans here. What happened to the unity discussion?
I'll be mildly surprised if the socialists are able to limit themselves to just another $2 trillion or so. Keeping in mind we already have a $27 trillion debt. We're on a very bad trajectory. It's a path towards a national insolvency and bankruptcy that would be debilitating to America, that would cost more lives than anything we've seen short of World War II or the Civil War. The economy is the mainstay of what enables and empowers us to have the kind of health care we have, to have the kind of education that we have, to have the kind of housing and food that we have. And if you destroy the economy, which these socialists seem hell-bent on doing, then there are going to be tragic adverse consequences. And the biggest tragic adverse consequence is if all of a sudden you have a national insolvency and bankruptcy, and this COVID relief bill that they're talking about, really, it's a payoff to those people who'd rather vote for a living rather than work for one, which is a basic block vote of the Socialist Party. And so we have to do what we can to try to beat that back. Unfortunately, the Democrats, they control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House, and so we've got an uphill battle. I pray that we'll have enough senators who will be able to stick behind the filibuster rule in this particular instance and stop a lot of the bad things that the socialists are trying to foist on our country.
Yeah, the hope is in Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin from West Virginia right now to stop that. You guys call them socialists. They call you murderers, basically. On the topic of division here, there's no shortage of name-calling happening up there on the Hill. And I want to play a clip for something that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said about the ramping up of House security following the Capitol Hill riot last month.
I do believe, and I have said this all along, that we will probably need a supplemental for more security for members when the enemy is within the House of Representatives.
What exactly did you mean when you said that the enemy is within? What exactly did
it
you mean
means
by
that we have members of Congress who want to bring guns on the floor and have threatened violence on other members of Congress.
So she didn't name names there, but we know she's talking about Congressman Andy Harris, who I believe wanted to bring a gun on the House floor, Lauren Boebert as well, also Marjorie Taylor Greene here. And Congressman, many people have tossed your name in this mix. I heard your speech before what happened at the Capitol. I know what you meant. It was a rhetorical speech. You didn't literally mean to fight and those types of things here like this. But when Nancy Pelosi is now returning that with this kind of language here, it seems like there's a never-ending cycle of bombast.
Well, I'm very much concerned about the nature of her remarks and what the logical consequences may be of them. I don't believe it's productive. It's one thing for us to go at it tooth and nail on public policy disagreements. Those kind of debates, I believe, are healthy on the House and Senate floors. But to engage in this kind of name calling without naming the names, I believe is counterproductive. Without producing the evidence, I believe is counterproductive. So I look forward to the day when, instead of using this broad brush approach where you stigmatize a lot of members of the United States Congress, each of whom was elected by roughly 700,000 Americans, I look forward to the day when they have the kind of specifics that would really enable us, empower us to make decisions on whether these people are, as Nancy Pelosi and some others in the Socialist Conference want us to believe.
And it does seem here that Nancy Pelosi is almost echoing the language we heard from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You know, she's basically calling Ted Cruz an accessory to murder as well, attempted murder on her. You know, and again, how can you guys work together if this is the way, you know, members of the opposite parties are speaking to each other?
Well, it's really unfortunate. And I want to talk about the election contest that we just had. You know, in my state, Alabama, the Democrats challenged our Electoral College vote in 2017, even though Donald Trump won by more than 20 percentage points. The Democrats have challenged Electoral College votes every single year that a Republican has been elected in 2000, 2004, and 2016 in this century. So when we do it, all of a sudden, it's a betrayal of the United States of America in the eyes of these Socialist Democrats. Well, don't be so hypocritical. That's my message to them. If y'all can do it, if you can have that kind of healthy debate about whether we're going to have an honest and accurate election system back in 2000, 2004, and 2016, when y'all are on the losing side of a presidential race, why can't we Republicans assert the same thing, particularly when we've got the backing of the report by Democrat Jimmy Carter and former White House Chief of Staff James Baker on the Commission for Federal Election Reform back in 2005 that specifically identified some of the weaknesses in our election system that the Democrats quite clearly exploited in 2020, and which Jimmy Carter and James Baker prophesied that we were going to have this kind of problem if we didn't fix these things way back in 2005, things like voter identification.
Well, we see, Congressman, we see them trying to continue to push for some of this stuff with H.R. 1. We talked about that here on this program yesterday, and all the crazy things Democrats want to do to kind of rejigger the entire elections process. It's certainly worth everyone's attention. I know you're paying attention to it as well, trying to resist what they're trying to do up there. The Democrats are anyway. Congressman Brooks, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it, sir.
My pleasure. Y'all have a